Thanks for tuning in. You are listening to Conversations with the Citizen.
Hi, and welcome to another week of Get Your House in Order. I am your host, Bren Sharif, and this week we have the privilege of having as a guest on this show the famed star of both stage and screen, one Miss Margo Richmond. For those of you that may not be familiar with Margo, if you have been in an industrial building and you had fluorescent lights, it may have been those lights that Margo sold to the building. If you have ever been in a hospital and had exemplary nursing care, it may have been Margo that oversaw that care. I don't know what you haven't done. I think, Margo, you have probably done as much or more than I have. So give us some more insight in what you have done.
It's a pleasure being here. Yes, I have been in the lighting business because the lighting business afforded many of my family members that were incarcerated that came home with felonies. And I told them it was hard for them to get jobs, so the difference was, let me find something to accommodate them so that they would not have to return to the street doing the things that happens in the street to earn the money. So I went into the lighting business as the first black female in the nation to sell lighting, industrial lighting, Christmas outdoor lighting, and lighting for schools, gymnasiums, and even in the surgical rooms. And it was quite an experience being the first black going into various different, from city hall to the purchasers, from government to state, even won some contracts down in Pensacola, Florida, where I supplied lights to a military base. But it was not easy. I had to pray consistently. But it was surely a challenge, and as the industry began to advance, they brought in Home Depot and Menards, and it was just, they want to kind of compete with those brothers out there. But God was good to me, and so was Northwest Indiana. So, Bren, it's a pleasure being here with you, sister.
Well, I thank you, and I think that the core value that you and I share, Margo, is that we are both women that believe God is the head of our lives.
Absolutely.
And prayer accomplishes things.
Yes.
And with that accomplishment, we have been prayerful, and we had a wonderful meeting last night with women of faith, and we are on a crusade.
Yes.
And that crusade is to get those of us that are black folks, to get us to become more active in the political arena. And that is a concern that I have. There's an old saying, and I know if I say this, I think everyone is going to be able to finish it. And that is, if you don't use it, you lose it. And that is what our vote, if we don't use it and we hear the current administration telling us that they want to change voting rules and the regulations of how you can vote. And believe me, that is a direct attack on us because we have not always had that freedom of voting. And as we discussed last night, one of those reasons that we don't participate is because we don't necessarily understand.
Yes.
So, give me some insight on why you believe that we as black folks, more than any other group of folks, should want to make sure that we participate in the political process.
Well, first and foremost, it should be a part of our birthright. Our ancestors, we fought extremely hard. They died getting us to this point where we should be voting. It's my humble prayer, and I will be praying consistently for our family members all over the world, that we would not take this opportunity to come out and vote. My heart was broken when I heard it was 25% of the people in the state of Illinois or city
In the city of Chicago.
in the city of Chicago that came out. And it is my prayer, and God don't fail. that we would begin to take those numbers and take those numbers to a height that they have never ever seen before. We are here, we're alive, and we're well, but we need to start talking to each other. Put the voices down. Whatever you have to do in the schools and the churches, I'm calling on the clergy. Come help us with this thing. You know that it's going to take what it's going to take for our people to understand. You can set up study groups. I'm calling on the men from the street. You know who you are, from the north, the south, the east, and the west. You all cover the foundation, so you should walk. Before you get too sedated, walk to them poles and help us continue to bring down the services that's necessary for you when you fall, because you're going to fall. The other part of it is every hospital, every school, every teacher, every nurse, when you hear somebody say, oh, I don't vote, it don't have no effect on me. Please, if you have the time, don't hurt them with your answer. Tell them why, how important it is, and tell them that's their key to success. Teach them what we need in our communities, and we can't get those things in our communities if everybody is silent. So as an example, if it's 20,000 of us in our community and only 6,000 vote, then we're not there. They think we're dead. So we need to come alive and just send these numbers off the chain this next election coming up in November.
I appreciate that. And one of the things that I always say, there's not a spot where politics are not.
Yes.
When we're born, there is a governmental body that says you are alive. Without that certificate of birth, you don't exist. Then, when you get to age about 5 or 6, there are laws that say you must go to school. Your mama and your daddy that birthed you, they have no control over that. That is the law. And they could be prosecuted if they do not provide education for you. Then there are rules that say once you get in school and you are of a certain age, we have minimum wages. Those wages that are considered minimum wage are determined by what? A governmental body. Then they tell you the work conditions. They tell you how long you can work. There is nothing that is ever in your life, as long as you live on this green earth, here in the United States, that government does not have a part in. They tell you when you can retire, what those benefits are going to be. So government is infused in everything that we do. There's nothing that we have. And guess what? You think that it's going to be time when you give up this body? Guess what? They tell you how it can be done, how it can't be done, and then you're not dead until they give you, like they gave you a certificate of birth, they give you a certificate of death. So government is in all of our lives. And when I look at the African American community, you were saying it's 25% citywide. That is true. But in the African wards, it was 21%. So we are still even a little shy of meeting that majority average. And it's more important to us. This current administration has impacted our community. And this, I've heard this argument, you probably have too. Well, there are more white people on welfare, and there are more white people on this, and more white people on that. Well, that's true. Their numbers are higher, but the percentage of their population is lower. There's a higher percentage of our African American communities that do depend on these governmental programs. And that's because we have not had those representatives that have made sure that the rules for hiring, that the rules for getting education, what those education curriculums were, have not protected us. So we come up on the short end of the stick. You said voting is a right. I say voting is a responsibility. You owe it to yourself, you owe it to your family, you owe it to your neighbors, you owe it to it's responsibility is like waves in a pond. It goes out. It starts first with self. So I understand that you're getting together an organization that is going to help us in our pursuit of getting more people engaged in the political process.
Yes, I've decided that we should not leave any doors unlocked. We need to go under the steps, around the corner. We need to go into the beauty shops, the barber shops, and listen, sisters and brothers that own these barber shops. We need to educate our people, and when you hear them, you know what it's like because you're paying for that booth space or you're paying for that building. It's taxes that's got to be paid. Our people need to be involved so they can get the best education possibly, or we can reach them where they are. Everybody wasn't born to go to college. We got trades out here. If you're afraid and you can't read and you know your children are struggling, make some phone calls on their behalf and let us see if we can get some of these apprenticeship programs that's throughout this entire city that's willing to help. Some of these retired teachers and some of the retired people that were in the libraries that's no longer there, they done removed so much of our history that we don't even know. Debbie Beauty School happened to be one of my aunties. I didn't know it and just found out. Just found out. And I was so proud back there in the 70s walking past this big old building because it was black owned. And she was teaching. So we need to just reach down. Let's have some fun with this thing. Let's not make it so, I want them numbers to just quadruple and everybody just by my hearing my voice. Please know, we need to turn this thing around. Let's show them what numbers really, really look like. We can do this thing.
I appreciate that. You have certainly given us the inspiration, knowing what it is that we need to do. And I do believe that your organization that you're pulling together now, and I look forward to you coming back, as to the education. It's my understanding that many of the schools teach to a test for the Constitution and not necessarily give day-to-day practical application of what that Constitution does for us. And being a person that is very active as you are, I absolutely know that what we don't know, we can't do. And so I think that if that organization that you're bringing can help educate us on what the offices are. Do you know what an alderman's responsibilities, their oath of office, what that does? Do you know how that impacts your day-to-day living in the place where you do? The rents that you pay, the utilities that you pay, the wage that you earn, all of these have governmental regulations. And if you don't know that, your vote is what determines the people that are there setting the rules, then you'll say, my vote doesn't count. Collectively, a finger may not have any weight. It is the fist. Yes. And it's our collective vote that is the count. So, motivation. You mentioned that there are the clergy. You reached out to the clergy.
I'm reaching out. I'm calling on everybody. Everybody that says that they believe or they have faith. I don't care which level it is. I understand there's a lot of organizations that don't vote. They don't believe in voting, but they black. But however, if I could go inside of some of those rooms just to find out you don't vote, but yet you're on Section 8. You don't vote, but yet you're collecting the funds. And yet you're working independently out of your house when you should be able to come out and get some brick and mortar so the world can come in and actually buy your products so that you can advance. I told that I wanted to talk to the cardinal because I think in every church, the Catholic Church appears to be very aggressive because a lot of the black churches have to go to Catholic charity to get some of the things that they need. Now, my organization was called Long Legs. My brother got sick, my mother got dementia, and I had to put it down. It was called Long Legs. But Long Legs was designed to meet the needs of those that was on drugs and alcohol, that was walking the street, that everybody was bypassing. If I could pull my car over to the side and talk to them and get them up off the corner, off the street, if nothing but for a day, they may have that opportunity to want to detox, not want to go to jail. But that was my people. You know, I had 38 people on drugs and alcohol at one time. They only need one person to whisper in their ear, or stick something out the window to them, just something to motivate them. You have them in your family. Don't try to talk to them if they're in your family. Get somebody outside your family to get to them. They can get to them better than you. But there's a lot going on. Once again, I'm talking to them all, Bren, because I just believe for every door that I knock on, if you got a big church and you got 200 pews and you got 8 people in there, they need to be voting. They need to be talking to our community. They need to be lifting up their neighbors, their friends, their cousins, the doctors. Talk to the doctors and nurses where you go. It's time for us to fight for real. It's a real war going on. And we're sitting like we're dormant and sleep. You all got to wake up.
Well, I thank you so very much. As I said when we first started, if you don't use it, you may lose it. So the idea of us voting now, we're going to listen out, Margo, for your organization as it comes into, as the formation comes into fruition, so that we, in this midterm election, we are at war now. This was not a war that was done by the rules. Our Constitution, right now, we're 250 years as a constitutional republic, and we're celebrating that. This is the only war that has ever been declared with an executive decision. I don't know if you have loved ones that are there. It's a very stressful thing to have. I had a son that was in Desert Storm, and even though it was declared correctly by Congress, it didn't make the stress any less. And I can only imagine you parents, grandparents, brothers, sisters right now that have people over there in Iran doing what for what? Only the Lord must know. This is something that we have to have more participation in our governmental bodies, i.e., our Congress. We need to have people representing our interest in these offices. We are not a democracy. And if I hear someone say we are a democracy, that is not what we are. We are a constitutional republic. Difference, little time for education. A democracy, every individual votes for their own interest. In a constitutional republic, which is what we have, we vote for representatives for our interest in these governmental bodies. So we're not a democracy, but a constitutional republic. Please exercise your responsibility to yourself, to your family, to the other people that you love. And let's become more educated on what the functions are of our government, how those functions affect us and our daily lives. And hopefully you will then be motivated to activate that responsibility that you have. This is Bren Sharif, again, coming to you on Get Your House in Order. And I thank you for tuning in. Have a blessed week.
Remember to make plans to join us again next week for Conversations with the Citizen, the place where real news can be heard.